said that, we both had no problem putting it second to Ace
funny.
Frehley's. Now you have Eddie Kramer, who produced this album.
Yep.
Eddie Kramer produced the first Kiss demos. Eddie Kramer produced Rock and Roll Over.
Yep.
Eddie Kramer was different from the other producers that Kiss worked with in that he wanted to bring out the best of those four guys.
Those guys playing.
He's
Not
like,
bring in people who could play it the way that he wanted it played.
You are Kiss. Let's get the best out of Kiss. And when he did that, we've got Rock and Roll Over, which is just a fantastic album.
Yep.
And to a lesser degree, the first album, he didn't actually produce it, but he produced the demos that created that album.
Right.
And of course, Eddie Kramer worked with bands like Jimi Hendrix, so he was a legend. And there's a reason Ace Frehley would want to work with him right there.
Oh yeah,
being
totally.
a huge Hendrix fan himself.
And Ace Frehley had Anton Fig on drums here, who would play with him for years later. Great friggin' drummer. And there's some oddball time signatures in here, and some really, as a kid, that I didn't get, but I liked it. I was like, I don't know how they're doing that, but that's so weird sounding. It's not just a straightforward album. There's some odd stuff in it too.
And there's a difference between the other three albums as well. As Peter had very great rock and roll kind of voice, just very gritty, raspy, kind of like a Steven Tyler or Nazareth, Dan McCafferty. Where Paul Stanley had this great high-pitched, very
strong
voice. Gene kind of had this where he was almost Beatlesque. He could do very highs.
But Gene has a great rock voice too when he wants to.
Ace, no. Ace, it's got. I've always called it can't sing, don't care.
Yeah.
It's very rock and roll. No, he can't sing.
It's a lot like Hendrix. Hendrix was the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Or Uli Roth, or a lot of those guys. But he just pulled it off. He really did create the best of the four solo albums. And so I've heard people say it sounds too much like Kiss. No,
Paul sounds more like Kiss.
I think it does too. But
Ace it's just great.
It's just a hard, heavy rock and roll album.
Yep. It's if Ace was given more free rein. I mean, they made a huge mistake when they encouraged Ace to get in front of a mic, because they almost created a monster.
Yep.
Because once he got past that one, the singing bit, you couldn't really stop him.
Yeah. Anyhow, I still, that is a regular player for me to this day. I still love that album.
I like to, if I'm I haven't put up Christmas lights in years, but that's what I used to listen to when I would put up Christmas lights for some reason. It would just.
And of course, there's an instrumental on his too, the Fractured.
Yep.
Which became Fractured Mirror, which became a series. That there was 3 more in the Fractured Mirror series.
There's even been a couple more. I think.
Yeah, it was a really cool, very cool one.
Great instrumental.
I think people are going to be surprised when it's actually not higher in our list.
This was the beginning of this was the end of the Kiss that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
Loved them. This is when things started getting more, they started getting bigger.
Yeah, they were becoming, I'm not sure what the right word is for that either. I love the cover art when it came out. I remember just...
Oh, sure. It's the same guy who did...
who did Red Destroyer, yep.
Yeah.
New costumes. I just remember being enamored by the whole thing. Yeah. I remember not liking Gene's boots as much as the original boots because it didn't have the scales on it.
Right.
But I thought Ace's costume was just badass.
They all are. And that was part of the shine of Kiss is you got the new costumes every year, and what are they going to do next?
But I must confess, when this album came out, I was a kid. I had 25 records at the time. So this album, I drove my parents nuts playing it over and over and over and over again.
I mean, this one, it reminds me of things like Halloween, dressing up like Gene Simmons.
Oh yeah, playing air guitar.
This is the first album I ever bought with my own money.
Yeah,
I bought it for $4.99 at Laverdier's drugstore, brand new, right after it came out.
But honestly, I just don't think the songs on here, there's some weak songs on here. Plaster Caster sucks.
I don't hate any of them.
It's a stupid song.
It's just it's I don't know. I guess it's a Kiss that's more tailored for the masses, as opposed to what they were previous to this.
But I do love a lot of stuff on here. Love Gun is, of course,
great track.
Classic
I Stole
track.
Your Love is a favorite.
Yep. Tomorrow and Tonight, Christine 16, Almost Human was kind of another character song for Gene. Shock Me.
That's where the Ace Monster was bred.
Oh yeah, and I love the song. It's a great song. It went with his character. It was a character song,
and it came from him actually getting shocked on stage.
And it became a big part of the show.
Yep.
With him doing his whole smoking guitar thing and all that
Yep.
during the guitar solo in that song.
Then She Kissed Me is an old
Yeah,
girl group song. It was actually Then He Kissed Me by the Crystals, I think.
something like that.
Which, you know, Paul was convincing in it.
And then I Stole Your Love, which is that's a heavy rocker. That's
Feel in the lyrics. But that was Pete.
I think the thing with Plaster Caster is that it never was one of my favorite songs. I think Gene ruined the song for me just because he, you know, it was like him boasting about how big his penis was, and it's like, God, I don't care about Gene.
I know. And when I first was hearing it, I didn't really know who the Plaster Casters were.
No, and I got it later on.
So it didn't matter.
And then when it started coming out that it was not even something he was involved with, he was just
he begged
glorifying it.
He begged them to do it. They refused.
Yeah.
Which I get tickled whenever Gene doesn't get his way for some reason, because I think he's gotten his way a lot, but not everybody's gonna fall for his crap.
Yeah, not everybody's gonna pander. Yeah. And yeah, but otherwise,
and then there's
it's a
Christine
good album.
16. We didn't mention that one.
Christine 16, which is another Gene song, which is another wretch having sex with
16-year-old.
16-year-old kid.
I guess it beats 13.
Yeah, which is
12.
David Bowie was in the 12-13s. Jimmy Page was in the 13-14s, and yeah, it was pretty common back then. It was groupies were young teens,
and somehow, I mean, even some of these girls got signed over by their parents. I mean, Steven Tyler actually adopted some girl with her mother's permission.
Was it Steven Tyler or was it Ted Nugent?
I just read something about Steven Tyler's too. It may not have just been one or the other.
I know Ted Nugent did that. He married the girl. She was 16 when he met her, and he ended up marrying her by the time she was 17.
Sandra?
I can't remember what her name was, but it's the girl that's in the video for Little Miss Dangerous.
Oh, that must be later then. He was married prior to that.
Anyhow,
I don't know. Doesn't
whatever.
That's Love Gun came with
how
one of that
how do we always talk about other bands that are talking about Ted Nugent?
I don't know. Because we're going into that sexual thing of that pedophilic.
Yeah,
tendency.
and everybody likes to point out the fact that Ted was one
right.
and one.
They just, I mean, Ted's an easy target these days because of his politics and his big mouth. So they might as well just load that up. And he's just someone else to fucking piss on and be pissed at, since that's like the hobby of the world.
This one, I don't know. This one, depending on what day of the week it is, could be up at number 1 and 2 for me.
I mean, it could have been.
It's the first Kiss album.
And this one we got the original one, 9 tracks. This has got the 10. This didn't have Kissin' Time. They added that later.
Yeah, but
iconic cover.
Mm-hmm.
That's a signature Kiss picture right there. I mean, they have several. But
and they were playing off the Meet the Beatles, if I'm not mistaken, right, for the cover art.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's a good point, though. That is kind of the same setup as the Beatles, and I've always heard it said that Gene was like, he wanted their faces to be the most recognizable.
Right, and it was basically the Beatles were known for the 4 guys, and each guy was a big part of the band, and that's what he modeled Kiss after.
Very much. I mean, he took it to the next level. Obviously,
right.
The Beatles didn't have.
And now he's taken it. Now he's just destroyed it, but because now it's no longer Peter
now
Chris, Paul Stanley. Now it's the Demon and the Spaceman, and
because he's trying to make it last beyond their lifetimes,
right?
Which doesn't appeal to me at all.
No, but regardless, great album. Kind of campy for the '70s. Has very diverse. So you got heavy songs like Rock Bottom on here. What other songs were on here?
Rock Bottom's not on here. That's on Dress to Kill.
I'm not sorry, Rock Bottom. What am I thinking of?
Black Diamond.
Black Diamond. Thank you. With that heavy intro, that
100,000 Years is on here.
Great song, 100,000 Years.
Yep. Nothing to Lose.
God.
Strutter, Firehouse. These are just
Strutter. Very heavy songs for the time.
And it's the opener.
Yeah, it's a great album. Great songs.
This is always so freaking hard to read. I hate that they're written in this curve.
Not only are they written in the curve, but they're this pink color and it's very thin font on a black, and it's just hard to read.
One of my favorite cuts on here though is Let Me Know, and it's something they never really revisited much live, but it's got all three. It's got Peter, Gene, and Paul taking lead spots vocally, and some of the best harmonies they ever did. Love that tune.
Yeah, very
great song.
Very Beatlesque in the harmonies.
Yep.
But and then.
This is a later pressing. This is also on Polygram.
Yeah, and it also has the barcode with most of them.
I didn't realize that.
Still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that the guys all did their own makeup, except for Peter Criss on this one. He let a makeup artist do it, and
And you never saw Peter look like that again, did you?
no,
Never. That
he looks like
version of him is like, it's almost like he's out of the Black Panther movie or something.
And
I mean, it's wicked cool, but
and then Ace did something that nobody else did. He actually silver spray painted his hair to give it that silvery look you see here.
This was a one-shot deal, and I mean, and even Gene's, look at Gene's makeup. It's so much more top-heavy.
Yeah.
It never looked like that again. But that's kind of cool about this too. I've seen this also with Paul having
The mask.
the like the raccoon type mask, which I'm so glad he changed it. But it just
Otherwise, it couldn't be the Star Child.
That's true. He would have had to have been
Star Child.
the trash panda. Star Child. Yeah, so I love that. That's probably my favorite part of the album is the odd makeup, because it never looked like that again.
I mean, it was the start of something, and it flopped. The album didn't do well for them at all. But again, it was the band's being built up by their label. Casablanca was a small label at the time.
Oh, it was brand new.
They talk about putting everything into a band.
Yep.
I mean, they're literally mortgaging their home and all that other kind of crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, they're running on credit cards and.
All right, I know a lot of people who love this record, and I do too.
It rocks.
It's a great record.
It
I
rocks.
know a lot of people who put this in #1.
Another iconic cover. I mean, that's just a classic Kiss shot in the.
With Gene and his Floods.
Yeah, I've seen so many bands try to reproduce that kind of thing.
Yep.
They'll wear their suits and do a picture scene like that. It never quite rose to this one. It's full of great cuts. It's got, arguably their first single, Rock and Roll All Night, was on here.
Which, unfortunately, didn't really happen until Alive, but...
Yeah, I mean, the versions on Live were so much meatier, even though they were doctored.
It's got a... so we got Rock Bottom, which is a killer song.
Yep.
I think that was a Frehley composition,
Come On and Love Me, Anything for My Baby. Great tracks.
Yeah. Getaway.
Love for All I Can, which was a Wicked
What
Lester.
song am I looking for here, though? Rock and Roll Over.
Room Service, Two-Timer, Ladies in Waiting. Getaway.
Parasite, is it on here?
Parasite's on Hotter Than Hell.
Okay, Parasite is the song.
Come On and Love Me, great one.
Yep, another great heavy song.
She.
Rocker.
She's
There you go.
my favorite on, and that's another Wicked Lester tune.
That was an
Two
old
Wicked
song.
Lester songs on this one.
That they revised, yep.
Yep. And Love Her All I Can is pretty much identical.
Yep.
They took out some instrumentation like flute and congas, and just did a straight.
And I think you can, isn't it on the Kiss box set? You can hear the original version of that, I believe.
Oh yeah, I've got a bootleg that has all that stuff. I actually really dig the Wicked Lester stuff. I like it a lot. More than I like probably their versions, but it's because it's a little proggier and it just had an earlier sound to it.
Another album that a lot of people would put at #1.
I love the album. It stands alone, I think, in the catalog.
Very different. It was very experimental for them at the time, which is as much as their producer as it was anybody else, Bob Ezrin.
I mean, this was a quantum leap from Dress to Kill,
right? So
or Alive.
But,
totally.
Like as we were talking earlier about Eddie Kramer, where we're like, let's try and get the best out of those 4 guys. That wasn't Bob Ezrin.
No, Bob Ezrin sent them to school, put the dunce caps on them first, then sent them to music school, just completely pushed them beyond their limits.
And you had everything on here. You had orchestras and children's choirs.
Yeah, which
and,
Bob Ezrin is famous for.
Yeah, I mean, think of some of the other albums that he did.
Love It to Death, Alice Cooper, he did Elder, he did The Wall.
The Wall, yeah, that was one of his big ones.
Huge.
Yeah, which came after this.
Yeah.
He also had some major flops, but
yeah,
but this album was epic.
He's got a definite style, and he's a producer that is extremely involved.
But you got one of the greatest Kiss songs ever on here called Detroit Rock City.
Yep.
You've got a Gene character song in God of Thunder, which was written, of course, by Paul, and there's demo versions with Paul singing that.
But they really captured something with God of Thunder.
Yeah.
Really.
King of the Nighttime World, which is pretty much a forgotten song, but I like that song a lot.
And another cover.
Yep. Great Expectations, again.
It's a Gene song that could have gone on a solo album. That's the kind of feel that it has.
You've got great expectations.
And when I was a kid, it was like, you've got wings like an eagle? What is he saying? Sweet Pain, Flamin' Youth, 2 of my favorite cuts on here.
Shout It Out Loud, which is a concert staple to this day. Even back then, it was never my favorite.
It's another anthem like Rock and Roll All Night.
Yeah, it was definitely a play on Rock and Roll All Night.
It's fun to sing along.
Beth, the B-side that became a massive hit and sold them millions of records.
Mm-hmm.
People bought it, assuming that they were this ballad band, and
Yep.
of course they weren't.
Do You Love
And
Me?
Do You Love Me, which is actually a great ballad in itself.
And it's definitely, it's like a Paul character song. It's like a,
It's more.
I'm a rock star and I
I'm
know
a rock
you're
star, but I'm a romantic at the same time.
right.
Exactly.
But do you love me or do you love my 7-inch leather heels or whatever?
Did Ezra do Welcome to My Nightmare too?
I believe he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yep.
And who gave it to you? Donny Osmond.
What?
And the cover,
Cover's
fantastic.
awesome.
And
Not the original.
Can you imagine? I mean, how much time it took to paint this? And this is the second version because the first one got rejected. I'm a graphic designer and I do art, and I have covers rejected, and it irritates me.
Well, of course.
I spent hours on the
this
cover.
is...
But can you imagine? This is physically paint on canvas, and they come to you like, yeah, we need to repaint it because we're changing their costumes.
And because it was also rejected because the background was more of a pinks and reds, and
Yes.
it looked more violent.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was really weird. I mean, this is 75.
Right. And we're talking about getting
76.
And then we're talking about trying to get these into Sears, and so yeah.
So the actual colors seem to be more violent, and this, I mean, if this was the version that was toned down, I mean, you can't really get away from what it is.
Yeah.
Kiss just destroyed this city, and they're they're heading over the rocks to get to yours.
Yep. Yeah. I always wondered Ace looked a little fruity in that picture.
Totally
I never got that, but
Totally did.
and Peter Criss never looked that badass ever.
Oh man.
He just looks
And
like,
I mean, even Gene. Gene looks like Gene was bulked up because of the armor and crap he wore, but he literally looks like, he really does look like a monster there.
yeah.
Ace, I always put it down to like he was always out in the clouds or something.
Yeah. And Paul looks like Paul.
No,
But this was the ultimate Kiss costumes.
it's
And the
classic.
best. I mean, those jean boots with the scales on them.
Yeah, the dragons
Yeah.
that came to life when they did the comic book. Oh my god, that was so good.
All right.
I love Destroyer. I love it.
For some reason, this one shows up a lot lower in a lot of people's Kiss lists. To me, this is a top 1 or 2. I like it that much.
It's the best of the first three in my I think.
I love this record. It's got a lot of deep cuts that they really don't revisit.
No.
Mainline.
No, Strange Ways never gets played.
Strange Ways. I mean,
Ace plays it
Ace,
now.
Yeah, and it was an Ace composition.
Right.
He didn't sing it. Or mainline. It was
And
Peter
I've
Criss.
never been able to find a copy of him singing it. For some reason, he will not sing it.
Yeah.
It's always either Peter or that other guy that sings with him now.
You had several different guys who sang with him in the past.
But never Ace. I was like, why won't you sing that one song? That's all I want to hear.
And then you always have people that say, Kiss were bad musicians or they weren't good musicians. It was all just a gimmick. And of course, it was a lot of gimmick. But
Of course.
I
I try to imagine all the songs without it. And I don't know. I don't know if they would have.
But I mean, a song like "Going Blind" that's
just
great
a great
musicianship,
song.
and it's
It's a
great
great song.
songwriting. It's a great song. But then you got
can't-
songs like "Got the Shoes," definitely a heavy '70s rocker.
Yeah, all the ways on here.
"Hotter Than Hell," which is a song that used to irritate all the parents because all the kids were running around saying "hell," and that was a bad word back then.
And really, I mean, the lyrics are so tame compared to what you
Yeah.
would think they are.
"Let Me Go Rock and Roll," which is a song they still play live to this
Yep.
day.
Parasite's on here.
I'd much rather "Parasite's" awesome.
Yeah.
That riff. I mean, that was a heavy.
Early Ace composition,
That was a
which
heavy-ass
he
riff.
does sing that one now.
That was a heavy ass riff back
Yes,
in
it was.
what '74.
Still is.
Still
Still a heavy one.
Yeah.
Super heavy.
Anyhow, I love this album. It's very and then of course we got that whole Japanese look.
Yep.
We just talked about this in the other video. So
Yep.
the kubaki in Africa.
Kabuki
look. And yeah.
Yep.
When the album wasn't even released in Japan yet,
Yep, it's just full of that kind of Japanese motif.
they
and
became huge. They definitely
big
became
time.
huge in Japan. But
Japan loved them.
so did Australia. Funny thing is, in Australia, they were still huge in the '80s. Before after they fell in the United States,
Yeah.
they were still huge.
Yeah, that's what was weird. A lot of bands did better in Europe when they,
All right, this one would have been lower in my list. It was higher in
because I absolutely love this album.
Randy's
It's
list,
one of my
and
favorites.
I love it too. So don't get me wrong. It's just,
Okay, what we got here is 3 versions of The Elder. Now, I didn't revisit Elder until after Creatures of the Night, when I had my second big Kiss, second wave of being in love with Kiss. Because for a while, like after Unmasked, it was like, okay, now it's kind of embarrassing to like Kiss.
yep. I remember
So
that.
you'd hide your records in a box in the cellar, and I remember Chris Alanek and we used to revisit them every now and then. Like, it would totally be like a guilty pleasure kind of thing. Like, I can't believe we're listening to Kiss. But that's what was fun about them too. I never even gave this one a shot until post 1982 after Creatures, when I got back into it. And then when I did, I was like, man, I really like this album. I like it a lot. It's another Bob Ezrin at the helm.
Yep.
I got 3 different versions here. The first one, the track listing came out one way, which suits the storyline best.
Right.
Then they redid the track listing to try and make it more commercially viable.
Which didn't really.
No. And then I've got another East German version with the difference in the logo.
This album, I shouldn't say this album, but starting with Destroyer, which we just talked about, and we talked about Bob Ezrin kind of not caring about if it was just those 4 guys. That I think that really started tearing the band apart on top of other things, and it just went further on here. I mean, when things like on Sweet Pain on Destroyer, when Ace recorded a solo and then it was replaced by a Dick Wagner solo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would, if I was in that band and that was me and I recorded a solo and then they without me knowing went back and had some other guy who's not part of the band record it.
Right.
I'd be freaking pissed.
And I think he was, and I think beneath all of the chemical refreshment he was probably involved in, that was probably part of what even pushed him further into it. Because you got people that are involved in stuff like that. They're probably not going to be the most confrontational people.
Right.
In situations like that. I don't know. That's my theory anyway.
Well, in this one, Ace was now the loner because Peter Criss was gone.
Mm-hmm.
You have Eric Carr in place. Eric Carr wanted them to do a heavy rock album. He wanted a heavy metal album.
And in some of these songs, they did.
No vote. Yeah, they did. But he didn't have a vote, and Ace was outvoted on everything. And Gene and Paul wanted to do this concept album,
which was a great idea.
They wanted to do this. They wanted to prove that they were better musicians than everybody gave them credit for.
Right, and this is probably the most intelligent album they've ever done. There's not a single song about tits and ass, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Not that Kiss sang about drugs, but well, sometimes it did.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no Plaster Caster on here.
No.
Let's put it that way.
But it's a story that runs
16.
through that could have been really developed and probably could have turned into something had it been anybody but Kiss.
And they wanted it to. I mean, it was
Right.
set to be a book or a movie or
Right.
both. And, yeah.
But the story, there are some songs out here that are brilliant. The Oath is what ended up being the they put it as the opener for the more commercially viable track listing. It's a heavy tune. When I first heard it, I'm like, wow, there's nothing wrong with this. And there's some real balladic stuff like Just a Boy, that could have been on Paul's solo album. It's very falsetto, very heartfelt. Dark Light was an Ace composition, another rocker.
And Ace recorded, that was done without Ezrin, as far as I know.
Right.
It was recorded in his home studio by himself, and I believe it was Anton Fig who played drums on it, and I don't know if any other Kiss members played on it or not, but
I don't know. Now, then we segue into it's a tune it's a twofer. You can't really listen to one without the others. Only You and Under the Rose, both written by Eric Carr and Gene Simmons. 2 of my favorite Kiss songs in the whole catalog. They're great. Awesome songs. Then we got World Without Heroes, another ballad with Gene doing it.
World Without Heroes.
It's kind of like When You Wish Upon a Star Part 2.
Very much so. It's very cheesy.
Yeah. Mr. Blackwell, which is kind of another character song for Gene. Kind of dark. Escape from the Island, which is another Ace Frehley, Bob Ezrin, and Eric Carr. I think it grew out of a jam that Ace did with Eric, which was called Car Jam, I think. It's all instrumental. Then we got Odyssey, which is my one sticking point in this album. I never have been able to get into that song. It's so smarmy. And I found out is another cover.
Yeah.
But it's a horrible song. It's a Paul song, and I just can't find anything redeeming about it. It's so blah that I could do without it, and I don't think I'd miss it at all.
No.
And you get the final song, I, which is just a total belief in yourself kind of song.
They also toned down their look for this album.
Big time.
Gene got rid of that little bun, which everybody has now. If you're cool, you have one of those buns. Right? The man bun. So Gene,
I think his was more
Gene should have patented that.
Yeah, he should have. He worked on the wrong thing.
Maybe he did.
God. But his was more like a samurai thing.
Yeah, his was. It was
The man bun thing, I don't know what the fuck that is. But that being said, I absolutely love this album. I always cite it as one of my favorites.
It is. It's definitely one an underrated Kiss album. It wasn't exactly what people were looking for from at the time.
No.
I think if they would have again worked with somebody besides Ezrin, and put out the same songs more organic.
I mean, Ezra, I think, was a good producer for what it was. It was more of a story. It was a concept album.
Yeah, and I also think that if I'm not mistaken, reading all the crap, Ezrin was kind of out of it at the time as well.
Yeah, I remember hearing about piles of coke in the sound room and stuff like that.
All right, now we're getting into the top.
Now we're getting into the real meat.
Yeah, top 3, right? Yeah, top 3.
Is that all that's left?
Mm-hmm. I think this one's going to surprise people that it's this high on our list, both of us.
I don't know how. It's a friggin' brilliant album. This is what single-handedly got me back into Kiss.
Same
after
here.
I'd given up on it.
And I can't say I ever gave up on Kiss. I definitely was in that same part where,
I moved them into the back of my brain.
Yes, and they were still in my collection, but when your friends came over, you didn't pull out Kiss to listen to.
No. Hey, check out this new Kiss album.
No. You played Kiss when you were by yourself.
Yeah. Very private. You didn't want people making fun of you.
Yeah, exactly. But this album, and I remember Tony Lee from Heathen's Rage, my buddy from high school, he called me up, he's like, dude, have you heard the new Kiss album? I'm like, no, man. So I walked over to his apartment, and the two of us listened to this album, and it was like,
oh my God. Same thing with me and Chris Allenack.
That freaking drum sound, man.
Oh yes, thunderous. This is the only Kiss album that I can really comfortably say is straight up heavy metal. None of the other ones quite rise to it. This one, absolutely. And I think this was part of the resurgence of heavy metal in the early '80s. This was a part.
It was part of the second wave. Yeah, yep. I mean, Kiss's the '70s sound was the '70s sound, and heavy metal sounded different in the '70s and in the '80s than it did in the '90s. And this was Kiss coming into the '80s.
This came out the same year that Screaming for Vengeance did.
Yep, and it's just a great record. It's not a bad song on here.
No.
Nope. And we didn't know Ace wasn't part of the band.
No,
at the time he's
they were still.
He's pictured on the cover.
They were still considering him part of the band.
It was mostly studio musicians, Vinnie Vincent.
But on this tour, Vinnie Vincent was the guy.
With the Ankh. Yep. The tour failed miserably. The album tanked. Did nothing for them. People
artistically and fan-wise, man, Kiss were back.
People love it now.
I don't know how you can't love it. It was so massive compared to the letdowns of the previous, 3 or 4 albums.
And I even love the video for the song I Love It Loud. Remember that video? It's so corny. Been looking back at it, but back at the time I just thought that's so cool.
Yeah. Paul hated that song. I think there was another song Paul wanted on here that Gene didn't want, and I think that was the sticking point. It's like, well, you can have that one if I can have Love It Loud. Paul hated it.
And I Love It Loud. It's just,
it's an anthem.
It's an anthem, and it's a great anthem. That should be played at every Kiss show.
Yep.
Creature of the Night, Paul song.
Massive.
Saints and Sinners, an upbeat rocker. You Gotta Keep Me Coming.
Another sexy Paul song, kind of.
Rock and Roll Hell, the song they used to...
It's actually a cover of a Back When Turner Overdrive song, but they altered it a bit.
They altered it a bit, and it was always kind of an ode to Ace kind of thing is what I read.
Okay.
Danger.
Great one.
I Love It Loud. I Still Love You. Ballad. Paul sings his heart out in that song.
Great
song. It's not, when you think ballads, you tend to think 80s schlock. And it's not 80s schlock.
No, this was prior to all that.
Yeah, it's very different.
And when you say ballad, I mean, what a ballad really is like a balladeer, a folk musician, and a song that tells a story. It morphed into that kind of love song, soft song thing, but it's not really accurate to call it that. It's a love song. Yeah. It's kind of like a love.
I mean, it is. I Still Love You.
Oh, yeah.
Because I still love
It's a lost love song, I guess.
But it's a very intense song. So anyhow, Killer and War Machine. And I remember when
War Machine is like the heaviest thing Gene's done since Godfather.
Oh yeah, and it's a great song. And I remember saying back in the '90s and into the 2000s, some death metal bands gotta record War Machine.
I'm sure somebody
and some
has.
death metal band did. Yep.
Someone did, another band just like that did God of Thunder too. And it actually was kind of cool.
Yeah, God of Thunder was done by Death. War Machine was done by 6 Feet Under. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great album.
Yeah.
And there's a
Neil Bogart died this year.
Bogart to Neil Bogart on here. Yep.
He died. That was the owner of Casablanca.
It was produced by Michael Jackson.
not that Michael Jackson. Brian Adams even has a songwriting credit on
Yes,
one
he
of
does.
these, and I
Yeah,
think
he
it's
does.
War Machine, if I'm not mistaken.
It might be, yeah.
It's a portion. There's like a little portion that I think they lifted from a Brian Adams
I don't
song, which is
remember.
why he got the credit.
I don't remember. But I mean,
That stuff starts getting really confusing.
This one could have been number one for me, except for number one. It's got to be number one. But
Yeah. Rock and Roll Over. Fucking
Yes.
awesome album. See, I always take this with Destroyer. I always used to listen to them back to back. So they always went together to me.
So for me, I've always thought this was just a better album than Destroyer. It was less experimental.
Mhm.
It didn't have songs like Great Expectations, and it's a rocker from beginning to end.
It is. This is probably one of the most purely rock and roll Kiss albums that there is.
And this to me was what when I said I was a heavy metal fan in 1977. This is what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got let's see, we got Love 'Em and Leave 'Em, Hard Luck Woman, which is
Originally written for Rod Stewart.
Yeah,
they
by
decided
Paul
to
Stanley.
use it. Mm-hmm. Peter singing
Peter
it.
sings his heart out on that song. It's great.
It's almost like
But
Beth Part 2.
You got Making Love, which is a killer song.
Take Me is
Take
one of
Me.
my favorites.
Yep, and again, it's upbeat, heavy
Yep.
rocker. Mr. Speed, another upbeat, heavy rocker.
Calling Dr. Love, another Gene character song.
Baby Driver.
Baby Driver is one of my favorite Kiss songs ever.
Go, baby driver.
That's
be
where-
driving on down the road.
That's where Peter's rock and roll and soulfulness is, and the song is just fucking heavy, and I think
Yeah.
he wrote it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's not an Ace song that he sang,
Right.
And that's a fucking heavy riff.
And then Ladies Room, which is typical Kiss, but
Typical
Gene. But it's a very cool song. Did we say Take Me? I think we did.
I Want You, the opener.
And then
that's
the
a
Love 'Em
call.
and Leave 'Em is on here, and
See You in
and
Your
it's See You in
Dreams.
the Dreams, which Gene later redid on his solo album.
Yep.
I've always liked this version better. It's
Me
a little
too.
more rockin', a little more organic, a little more raw. Eddie Kramer. I just like Eddie Kramer. He's the guy. And this
It's a
is
great album.
I mean, he did the Ace solo album. He did this album, and he's just a great producer. He's just done some of the greatest albums in rock and roll history, and I think this is one of them, including the cover art, iconic cover art.
Who did the cover art?
I'm just saying this is.
Oh,
iconic.
I was going to say, because the cover art, I don't remember the name of the artist, but he also did Sonic Boom several
Yeah.
years later. Similar, nowhere near cool
No,
as
this is
but
it's an iconic cover, and I've seen this cover redone many. Anthrax just recently did similar vibes, and I've seen other bands do it too. But it's just iconic. I mean, it's playing off these characters.
Yep.
And again, it's identifying these four characters. But man, it's just awesome.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely something special about it. And it came with a die-cut sticker of the
yeah.
cover. Again, the one I got didn't have it. I think it was like a Columbia Music House version.
Yeah.
Didn't have the stickers. I got them now.
Last one, number one. I don't know what the difference is between your two copies, but we'll find out in a second.
One, this is a reissue. That's the blue label. This is the desert label. Kiss Alive. First one I ever owned, 1976 Easter morning. It was in my Easter basket.
Yeah, I remember. I've got two versions too. I think I have a Canadian version. It's up here in French, in
Oh, okay.
English, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, this one's on the
You
original.
can't be a Kiss fan and only have one.
No.
Yeah, I mean, and then if you don't have
This
the
is-
booklet, you know.
I wish I still had. I might somewhere. My very first. It's beat to crap. My very first copy of this. This is on the Blue Casablanca label. This is on the later Desert Scene with the camel on it.
Yeah.
I must have spinned this album hundreds of times when I was a kid. It took me on a journey.
Yep.
Because it really felt like it was a full-on Kiss concert all the way through. And each side was so specific. Every side has its own character.
Yep. And every performance is raw. It's heavy. I mean,
Mhm.
it's energetic. You get that. I mean, is it all live? No.
It's severely
very,
doctored.
very doctored. I don't care.
If it was... No, I don't care at this point either. I mean, there's other great live albums that have had similar treatments. Unleashed in the East had a similar...
Yeah.
Very doctored. Artists like Frank Zappa, they would take live recordings and they would doctor the piss out of them and just release them as albums.
Yep. Ted Nugent.
Yeah, the live stuff was just the basis for the songs, and then they'd add all the overdubs, and it basically was like a studio album that had like live roots. So,
But there's something that you can't capture in a studio. There's an energy. If you ever, I don't know, you know because you've been on a stage in front of people as have I. There's something energetic about it, feeding off
There
the
is.
crowd that you cannot capture in a studio.
because there's an urgency of I can't make a mistake because I can't.
Right.
I've got one shot.
Right.
Kind of.
And there's an energy that you feed off of
Yeah.
in that crowd. I mean, you're pumped. You're ready to go. And that you can feel that in this record, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Great cover. I mean,
yeah.
iconic shot.
It is.
It's not an actual live shot. I mean, it is a.
No, in fact, I've got a poster of an outtake from this shot, and they're obviously not playing.
Back cover, iconic back cover. I say iconic
yeah.
a lot in this video.
Oh, it
but-
is. I mean, it's great. And I've seen
Can you-
pictures of these guys older, like our age,
Mhm.
that holding the same sign like when they're old guys. And
Yeah.
it's so cool.
Again, it had the booklet, it had the center spread with the photos, and just nothing. The drum solo in here is amazing, and
Yes.
people can put down Peter Criss as being a
It's one of the most memorable drum solos ever put on record, as far as I'm concerned. And it was the first real drum solo I ever heard.
yeah.
And everyone would tell me, "Oh, this is wicked cool 10-minute drum solo on the Kiss album. You got to check it out." And I'm like,
I loved it.
"It's
I
actually
still
pretty
do.
cool, man."
My son became a drummer, and when he was a teenager, he was working on a drum solo for a performance he was going to do. And I'm like, again, I can't remember what all the 3 albums, but this is one of the 3. I'm like, listen to the drum solo in here. Listen how he pulls the crowd, and it's not a boring drum solo because he's got the crowd with him.
Mhm.
They're clapping along. They're into it.
Yep.
I said, that's what you got to do. You got to get the crowd into it, and he ended up using that to employ in his drum solo. So anyhow, side story.
Yeah, this was the beginning of my hard rock experience. Life-changing album for me.
Kiss Alive, yeah.
Yep.
I know. I always loved this guitar too. Not one you saw him play that often either. The
Oh, the Thunderbird?
Thunderbird, yeah.
Yeah, you never saw Peter. I mean,
Yeah, and it's actually on the cover, so.
and Ace has got his guitar inverted. I think this is a black Les Paul he's playing with the triple pickups. Of course, one of them's probably his smoke pickup.
Probably. Yeah. And then,
And then Gene's just lean as a friggin' sirloin steak.
so
Look at
skinny,
him.
man.
I know, totally. And that's about as badass as he ever looked right there.
Yeah, it's just an iconic shot. But
It is.
anyhow, that's our Kiss worst to best.
Yeah. You wanted the best and you got the best! The hottest band in the world! Yes! The death metal version.
God bless. Stay strong.
Bye!